Hello, everyone. My name is Jay. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Jay, where we are building a hub for healing, transformation, and personal spiritual development. I get to speak to people from all walks of life and professions from all around the world as well, who I feel have great insight and wisdom to help you with your healing journey, with your conscious evolution, and with your self-betterment. Today, I have PCC coach Miss Arlene Miller. Hope you enjoy the episode. I would like to officially welcome Miss Arlene Miller to the show. Hello, Arlene. Welcome.
Hello, Jay. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So, for those millions and millions of people out there that are watching this, if you don't know, Arlene is a GCA graduate. When did you graduate, Arlene?
June of 2011. I think I was the fourth class, maybe the third class. I forget, but yeah.
Like the fourth or fifth intake ever of
The-
GCA?
yeah, I think the fourth. I think somewhere
Huh.
right in there.
So one of the early ones through there. So Arlene graduated from GCA and has been a long-time friend and a huge supporter of GCA since then, and has also helped out with facilitating and tutoring. She's been tutoring the current intake that we have going through, and we really appreciate you, Arlene, and everything you've done and do for us. And you do champion the academy a lot, which we appreciate.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure that changed my life, and I just love working with the students that are coming through. They're just such bright lights, and they're so excited about what they're learning,
Mm.
and I remember all that stuff about being in there and trying to figure out how the heck do you coach people. And so I'm just so grateful to be able to work with people now who are going through that process. You know, you've been there and done that, and to be able to get back in that way is just really cool.
Yeah, nice. Super rewarding, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So we'll dive into a lot of that. I want to touch base firstly on your accreditations. You're a PCC coach, is that right, with the
Yes,
ICF?
I am. Yes, I am.
I am curious to know how many hours you have under your belt, because being a PCC coach, there's a broad spectrum of how many hours you've done. How many hours do you
Right.
have currently?
I haven't checked recently, but I think it's like it's close to it's close. I think it's like 25, it's over 2,500. So
That's so,
a
yeah,
a lot of hours. Well,
that's
I've been a coach for a long time. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's a
so
lot of
yeah.
hours.
It is a
That's
lot of hours. Yeah,
yeah.
it is.
Yeah, that's a lot of hours. That's a lot of experience. That's exciting to me. So my first question is, with 2,500 hours, what do you feel the main thing you've learned about yourself within that coaching period, within, coaching that many hours?
Um Well, I learned it from the beginning, but it gets imprinted every single time I work with people, is that to completely embrace uncertainty. Because if I have an idea about where my client is supposed to go or what they're supposed to do or what a student I'm working with is supposed to be like, I've screwed things up. I've messed things up. And because I'm imposing my views on them. But when I embrace uncertainty and I just have no clue where a coaching session is going to go, it always seems to go to the highest, clearest, brightest place for the person I'm coaching because they're the boss. They know where they want to go. I'm partnering with them. And when I do that, and I'm just so much more relaxed because I don't have to do as much. You know, I
Mm.
allow the person I'm coaching to do most of the work. I'm partnering with them. I'm asking questions. I'm sharing things that are maybe some insights or some comments that I'm noticing about them and allowing them to do with it what they will. And wherever they get by the end of the session is perfect for them. Wherever I thought they should get is none of my business.
Mm. It's such a great point that you bring there, and from facilitating and in my own experience, Arlene, that can be a huge thing to embrace uncertainty and to walk into the unknown. Because like, I feel like some people who have a misunderstanding of what coaching is, they think that they need to be in control. I'm the coach. I'm in control, or even therapists or whatever it is. There's just this underlying thing that some humans have, maybe all of us, I don't know, to control, especially if we're in the helping profession and we're kind of playing that role. It's like, oh, I've got to be in control. Yeah, I just loved how you explained that there, because coaching is so much about getting out of the way. It's client centered, and it's stepping into the unknown, which can be daunting, right?
Right. And when we try to be in control, then we're like all nervous and uptight and contracted. And how can we possibly be a good coach for anybody? Because we're so worried about if they're going to say the right thing or what we're going to say. So we're putting the focus on us, which has nothing to do with being a coach. The focus is on the client. What I think or feel, if I can offer something that's an offering to them that helps them to move forward, that's one thing. But to be really uptight that they're going to follow my protocol is pretty darn arrogant. So, no, that's not a good idea.
Did you struggle with it at all, Arlene, at the start, or did that come quite natural to you?
God, I don't know what I struggled with. The whole process was like, how, because the people that were instructing me back then, I remember like sitting on the floor with all the different kind of questions and comments that you could do as a coach to begin with, and not knowing what the heck I was doing and just hoping that I could make it through the conversation. So it was a big stretch to learn how to coach, and it brings a lot of empathy to the people I work with, because I remember like working with the people that were there in the GCA, and how smooth they were, and the videos and audios that they shared with us about master coaches, and I'm like, how the heck do you ever get there? But of course, the more you practice, the easier it gets. But it was really daunting. I didn't learn anything about that in college or law school. It was not a skill that was taught to me. So it was a practice. Yeah, it took a while.
Yeah, and ongoing, I guess. Do we ever master it? It's just this ongoing learning and practice.
Yeah, I love to like you can find videos on YouTube about it that for MCC coaches, that's the next level. I love to go watch their sessions because I
Mm.
learned so much from them. And so I think if you ever stop learning, you're making a mistake, especially in coaching, really in any profession that you're in.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that as well. I love watching good coaches because there's always something to learn. And it's just, I just find it quite magic in my own experience and watching others working, is when you really do get out of the way and you're maintaining presence and you're partnering and you're ticking all those ICF comps, then it really is this magical journey that you don't know where it's going to go. You're not thinking about where it's going to go. You're just in the moment in this dance with the client who's just journeying through, meandering through whatever it is that they need to, whatever they're bringing to the session. And am I always amazed? I don't know. It's very rewarding at the end of the session when I've been out of the way and in that unknown space. And it's just magic to me, Arlene, because often it's like, how did we get from there to there? How did that happen? But it just sort of
Yeah.
organically happens when we're truly partnering and we're present and we're out the way and we're not trying to control.
Yeah, and it takes as long as it takes, because some clients, you can have a lot of sessions where it seems like they're repeating the same thing and it's going over and over the same stuff, maybe a little bit differently because they're not quite ready to take that next step forward. And then they'll have an aha moment. You're like, oh my God, where did that come from?
There it
And it's
is.
just so cool because you've been holding space, that kind of really unconditional positive regard, judgment-free space. You're not like whenever they get it, they get it. I'm just going to walk this journey with them. But still, when it does happen, it's kind of like, whoa, that's amazing. That's a really cool moment with coaches as a coach.
Yeah, yep, totally agree. So, off the back of that first question, what is the main thing you've learned from clients in that 2,500 hours that you've coached? What have you learned about
Uh,
people?
I mean, everyone amazes me because there's a commonality in humanity, but everyone is unique. So, I mean, some people are better with receiving like a little bit of comment feedback of what I'm noticing. Some people are just better if I'm quiet and hold space. And I guess what I really need to do as a coach is just be there as they are. That everyone, there's a commonality in all of our clients
Yeah.
because we normally attract people that we're a few steps ahead of what we've learned. So
Hmm.
I always see myself in them. But I guess, everyone's unique.
Yeah.
And, we have this commonality as being members of humanity, but I don't know. I guess everyone's unique and just take them where they're at. I guess that's the best I can give.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody is beautifully unique. Absolutely, Arlene. Has there been a particular flavor of issues that you've noticed with clients over the years? Anything that's common that people bring to you?
Yeah. Well, I've specialized in like being a work-life harmony and leadership coach for women. So I get a lot of women who are working mothers or just working, or they have a lot of plates that are spinning at once. So I guess the commonality I've seen most recently is that the world is a pretty interesting place.
Hmm.
And when I was growing up, my mother stayed at home. She was a stay-at-home mom. Her parents were poor. She was stepping into a new place to have that opportunity. A lot of women, most women, who want to be professionals, they don't have that opportunity anymore. And there's not as, when I was a young mother, childcare was inexpensive. All those kind of things have changed, and there's just a lot of stress. So a lot of women come to me, usually one or the other area in their life, the home area or the work area is the more stressed area. And they're coming to be anxious and overwhelmed and stressed and not knowing how to spin all the plates and not knowing how to delegate and not knowing how to engage in self-care and self-love practices and not remembering how to breathe and trying to bring everything to everybody and still having these things about perfection. I'm just giving a general thing of,
Yeah.
not every
That's
single
great.
person, of course.
Yep. Yep.
They're all amazing women that seem to come to me. I'm really in awe, but they just need to find ways to rest, relax, and let go of that kind of hypervigilance, trying to
Mm,
be everything to everybody, and find ways to make things work in a way that they're filling themselves up with that self-care and self-love so that they
mm,
can give to other people and that then they have a bigger space to be able to handle everything that's going on in their life and really drop all that perfectionism. So um, yeah, it's interesting. It's because I can so relate to them. I
yeah.
started my own law firm when I was 29 and found out I was pregnant with my son, and our families were 6 hours away. All my colleagues in law school were 6 hours away, so I had to build my own tribe, and it's it's an interesting experience. It was not easy. I think the first three just as a solo practitioner was I wonder when I'm going to get enough sleep. So
Hmm.
I really enjoy working with these amazing women.
Yeah. It's so interesting, Arlene, that you've brought that because I've done a lot of podcasts and I'm speaking to a lot of people, and there seems to be this theme of self-care and self-love and people being really stressed in the world. And I can understand that with the way the world is. And there just seems to be this undercurrent of people that are really seeking that, seeking to reconnect. It feels like there's a lot of disconnection out there, and people are struggling with all the pressure, the personal, professional pressure that's out there. And a lot of people on the show are talking about how they help people with self-care and self-love and that sort of stuff, or how they're struggling with it, or that's been a thing for them. It really, it really seems to be an issue out there with the fast-paced world that we live in.
Right. And we forget that we need to put down our cell phones, close our computers, maybe get out in nature, take some breaths, enjoy the
Yeah.
world around us. And it's really not that complicated, but we find ways to not do it. I mean, lots of times when I do have a daily yoga practice, and lots of times when I'm driving there during a school day, there's this amazing mother I always passed, and she has
Yeah.
one kid on a bike in front of her, one kid on a bike behind her, two in a stroller, and she's running and taking them to school, the two older ones. And I'm like, you go, girl,
Yeah, yeah,
because it's beautiful here in Colorado where I live, and she's finding a way to get out there and make it work when she has four children. That's a
yeah.
lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's a lot of plates.
That's a lot
That's
of
a lot of
juggling.
plates. That's a lot of
Yeah.
plates. So I'm like, wow, you are an example for us all.
Yeah, go mums out there. I swear, like the hardest job in the world, honestly. Yeah. So did you always know you were going to be a coach? I heard you say you had a law firm there, but did you have a sense that one
No,
day? Nah?
no, there weren't any coaches when I was growing up. The only kind of coaches I knew were like for football and baseball
Yeah.
and basketball. I grew up in basketball country, and no one, there was no such thing as a life coach or an executive coach. That wasn't even in our vocabulary. So no, I decided that I want to be an attorney when I was 15. And just made the proclamation to my mom and dad. I was still in high school, of course, and that's what I did.
You went straight
I
through
just
from there, Arlene, from
I
15
went
to
to yeah, I got a BA from Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, came back to my home state of Kentucky and got a Juris Doctorate, that's what it's called, a law degree.
Yep.
And yeah, I just went straight through and did it with my parents' help. They were very generous in paying for everything. My father was a gem.
Nice. Well, lovely to hear that you had supportive parents in that way. So, in saying that, my friend, then where was the change? What happened? If you were you a successful attorney, or was it all crumbling and you're like, oh well, I'm no good at this.
No,
I
I was
doubt
a
it.
successful attorney.
I
But
doubt
it,
that.
it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
it wasn't like immediate, I opened my own law firm. I really couldn't find a firm that I liked or that wanted to hire me when I was around 29. So I just followed in my father's footsteps, who was an entrepreneur, and said, I'm going to open my own office. I didn't know what
good
the
on
heck I was
you.
doing. So yeah, it took me a while to build my practices. I've owned us as a solo and sold it, and then used that to buy into a small like boutique law firm in Longmont, Colorado, where I now live. And I sold that about 8 years ago, 9 years ago. So
Yep,
yeah, I was successful as an attorney, but I wasn't like super rich or anything. I could just take care of myself and the family.
yep.
But I loved it. Asking why I made a change.
Yeah, what
Well,
happens?
I have some amazing, amazing women friends, who would figure. And one of them started the Global Coaching Academy. And when she did, um, because I think she got her degree, but she just felt, I'm just assuming, and this is what my feeling was, that there wasn't enough heart-based
Mm,
love, self-care, love stuff in what she did, and she wanted to start her own school. And
mm.
she did ask me the first intake if I wanted to join, and I was, to say the least, a little bit arrogant because I was an attorney, I was successful, I had 7 years undergraduate and graduate, and I said no. And also, I was wondering how the heck I could do a diploma when I was a full-time attorney. And it took me like 3 years to go, I need this. And I said
Yeah.
yes. So, yeah, it took me a little while to get out of my way. And yeah, I've shared this on other medias, but I just realized that law school and undergraduate didn't teach me how to learn, how to listen. And a lot of my job as an attorney was listening. I
Mm.
was negotiating settlements. I was doing a lot of the marketing for our law firm. So it was really important to be a good listener. And I also felt like I could probably be a better mother and a better boss, to the people that I was working with, and a better spouse. I was married then. And I think all those things helped because I just became a better person going through the Global Coaching Academy. It wasn't just all the skills, it's just like it was a transformational experience.
Nice one, Arlene. Do you feel that that listening component was the biggest thing that you gained from the academy?
Yeah. Well, also how to present. I learned, we did presenting, and I was used to, I had a lot of leadership positions in a national organization as I was an attorney as part of the marketing. So I was used to getting in front of people, but I wasn't used to getting up and presenting and sharing a topic that was dear to me in front of people. So the Global Coaching Academy was really the first stepping stone for that. And I don't know. I just learned so much about how to relate to people, how to help people to share what they needed to step forward. So those were great skills as well. There was just so much, but the listening was a big deal because I was really always thinking about what I was going to say
Mm.
when people were talking, and loving to bring the conversation back to me instead of enjoying what they had to share. So
Hmm.
That was a big deal. That was a big deal to really get that.
Yeah, and such an important skill when coaching. Like you
Yes.
did touch on that. Is well, it's a core comp, isn't it? Active listening or listens actively. Yeah, so absolutely. There's so much in the course, and for those of you who don't know, I joined as one of the core team in 2024, and I've just co-facilitating now my first intake this year, and I am a graduate from GCA as well. It's so interesting because when I did the course, Arlene, I was like, yeah, it's full. There's a lot in this. It's a big course. There's a lot of stuff jammed into the year-long course, and it just reaffirmed it with watching the students go through. There's just so many skills you learn, and it's like you're not just ready to be a coach and a mentor. You do have these presenting skills. We only just did that workshop a few weeks ago where the students learn how to create their own workshops and to present that. So when you were speaking about that, I'm like, there is just so much in this course. It's not just mentoring and coaching. There's so many life skills, personally, professionally, and spiritually. It's very heart-based. It's very holistic. And yeah, there's a broad spectrum of skills that you learn in the course.
Yeah, and you really do that deep dive into self-care, into self-love. So you
Yeah.
really learn so many different levels of how to take care of yourself. Because people say that they're going to engage in self-care and self-love, but to have a whole supporting community for a whole year to really allow that to sink in and to have skills and tools shared with us was amazing. And it was just so helpful because then you can really, when you're working with people, you can go, I bet they could use that skill, and you can't always tell them as a coach. You can as a mentor, but you can model that for them as a coach,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
it's just invaluable. I just changed and grew so much in that year. It was really in moments it was really challenging. So, but I love a good challenge. So it was really amazing.
Yeah, that deep introspection that students undergo is just it's super helpful, and Belinda has said often that who we are is how we coach, and that's really what it's all about, is encouraging all of the students to undergo their own introspection and their own personal spiritual development so they can be the clearest mirror for their clients, so they can bring their best self to their clients, and that's ongoing. It's not like, oh, I've done the work and I'm there yet. It's just making sure that we've got these practices in place, the self-care, the self-love, all of that stuff in place ongoing to support ourselves so we can be the best support for our clients.
Yeah, and as we give, so we receive, because I get so much from working with my clients. A lot of the people I draw to me, they have good ideas that I haven't thought of, or they step ahead in a way that I haven't, or I'm feeling how much I have grown because I'm a few steps ahead of them with the problems that they're bringing or the issues or their goals. And it's not just a one-way street at all. And I think that's referring back to another question you asked me earlier, but it's an ongoing, beautiful experience about being a coach.
Yeah. Well, on that, Arlene, what would be your favorite thing about being a coach?
Um, Gosh, I just love, I love, I love like learning from other people. I love holding space for other people. I just love the whole process because to me, it's not like a singular this, or this anymore. It's just like you come in and it's like, okay, what's going to happen today? And you have to take people where they're at. They can be really up one week and like really down the next, or they can be in the middle of a whole bunch of challenges, and the next week, or 2 weeks down the road, a lot of that is dissipated because they've taken steps. And it is just being with people in the moment, and I just love that. And I love watching people evolve and grow. I love
Hmm.
being with them when they're in their challenges, and just knowing that what will eventuate is for the highest good of them, if they're willing to keep on stepping forward. Yeah, that's, I guess, what I would have to share.
Yeah. And what about the challenges, Arlene? What would be the biggest challenges that you have faced or that you do face as a coach?
I think it's important to acknowledge that everyone isn't coachable. Some people, and you really have to take people where they're at. And just with some clients, I just have to let go all the PCC, all the things I've learned as an ICF, International Coaching Federation coach, through the GCA and just through my years of coaching, because some people, they just don't even give you a space to share. They just talk and talk
Mm.
and talk and talk. And, I guess what I've learned from some other, I've gone through a couple of other trainings, to stay accredited, is that what some coaches do in those challenging situations, that they just maybe let them talk like that for 3 or 4 sessions until they say, something like, well, do you understand what I'm saying? And one of the coaches said, well, no, I don't. Actually, you're sharing so much that I really don't know what you want to do or
Oh,
where you want to go. And then at that point, she was able to bring them back and have a conversation about, if you really want to move forward with coaching, here's some ideas. And they sort of had like a
huh.
chat about that. And then the next session, it started to begin to move forward. And sometimes, as coaches, we need to do that, because what we're doing for our clients is we're holding a huge space that people don't get. And that's when I'm not thinking about what I'm going to share. I'm not trying to one up them. I'm not going to bring the conversation back to me. They are the focus. And to have that kind of loving, expansive space where they're open to share everything is a lot of people have never ever experienced that. And so sometimes as coaches, even though it feels challenging at first, we need just to allow them to go through a process, maybe for a couple of sessions, where they're just rattling on, and we don't interrupt them. And then when they ask us something, or it really feels like the moment where we need to share that, if they really want to step forward with their goals and why they came to coaching, maybe we can do it a different way and have a talk about that.
Yeah, interesting. So not necessarily is it to jump in the first session if they're really talking.
Yeah, because I mean, there is a way as a coach says, that we can interrupt people and we can get an agreement at the beginning if we feel like something's coming up that can help them move forward. Is it okay to pause the conversation? And I could go like this, so I don't have to say anything for timeout, and get their agreement. But sometimes with people, you just have this feeling like, they just really need to talk. They have no one to
Yeah.
talk to. They have a spouse who really doesn't listen. Their kids are grown, or they have young kids not to talk to, and they don't feel comfortable sharing what they want to share with me or with any other coach, with their friends, and they need to get that out of their system a little bit. So
Yeah.
you have to be in the moment with people.
When you're sharing there, Arlene, it just felt deeply healing hearing you explain that. Just understanding that people just may never have had a space where they've been listened to. And so just the way you were sharing that, I'm like, that's got to be healing for them, just to have someone just listen and even let them talk for 2 sessions if they need to. That just felt really healing. It would have to be healing for someone.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not stepping in, because it's really important that we stay in the coaching mode. I'm not stepping into counseling.
Hmm.
I'm not, or consulting or anything like that. I'm still staying and holding that coaching presence. But you just have to be mindful of where people are at. And then we can always have a conversation with them of, where to from here, but if
Yeah.
they really want to move forward with their goals. And I think that it also helps me to relax as a coach, that this it's not going to be, an ICF coaching session that meets all those markers, and that's
Yeah.
okay in this moment.
Yeah. Well, ultimately it's about what the client needs in the moment, whatever that is,
Yeah,
and comes back to what
right.
you were saying at the start, is just coming in that curious space and the unknown space, and what does the client need?
Yeah. And eventually, because we are coaches, and it is our um, goal to help them to step forward with their goals and what they do, then we can come back into that space, and all the tools and skills that GCA has imparted to me and us, and use those for their benefit. And sometimes we just have to step back.
Yeah, well said. Well said, Arlene. I'm curious a little bit about your own journey, and I know you touched on uh, wanting to be an attorney when you were 15. I'm curious about when you were growing up, though. Did you always have a feeling that you wanted to help people? Was there anything like that
Yes.
in you? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I chose to be an attorney. And I must acknowledge that my motives were not totally pure. I wanted to also be a woman that could take care of herself. You know,
Where did that come from?
I don't know. Because my mother was really cool. She made the choice. She was went to school. She became a social worker. She got a bachelor's in social work. And she wanted to stay home, and she took care of the finances for my father, for the business and the family. And so I knew that she made that conscious decision. I don't know, the women's movement was really starting back then. I really came, I feel like I had a lot of anger as a kid that was,
Yeah.
you know, I just had like, the women weren't treated fairly and blah, 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 blah. So a lot of
Yeah.
that I hadn't let go of yet was kind of mixing into the picture. And so I
Yeah.
was going to be a strong woman and I was going to get out there and no one was going to tell me what to do. And I really, really, really wanted to help people. So there was mixed motives and things that I really needed to let go of that I think that I don't know. I just picked up, because I'm only like maybe the third generation. The women's movement, those ladies are about, they're not that much older than me, I'm not sure when it was in the United States when women could actually open a bank account without their husband, but it's not that long ago. So I guess I felt like I was born angry about that. And
Rightly so.
anyway.
Like, seriously, rightly so. Like, what? No, you can't. Yeah, the husband had to sign for the account, or I don't even know if they could have an account, really.
Yeah, so I was like kind of a little bit of an angry warrior when I was growing up, and I had to let a lot of that go. So it was I really, really, really wanted to serve, and I had the stuff that I needed to feel through and let go as well, and be proactive in a more heart-based way.
So, Arlene, I know you to be very compassionate and you are very committed to service, and it's obvious you care about your clients and you have a wonderful service ethic. I'm wondering about your own personal journey a little bit and how you've got to here. Let's go a little deeper with that and any challenges that you've had to overcome personally in your life that you feel have really shaped you to be the woman that you are now, if you wanted to touch on any of that.
Um, yeah, well, when I was an attorney, the last like 6 years, I told you I got that diploma in coaching and mentoring. I also got a diploma. I felt the other things I did to help me, I thought it was going to help me just being a better attorney. It wasn't on my radar that I was going to do anything with coaching and mentoring other than a part-time deal.
Right.
And I also got a diploma in transformational holistic counseling and got certified as a meditation facilitator. All these things were very personally helpful to me.
Mm.
And I got to a point with my law firm that I just got burnt out. As an attorney, I loved being an attorney. I loved what I did. And you could never leave it. I mean, it was always there, whether I went on a holiday,
Mm.
vacation in the United States is what we call it, or
Yeah.
I was on a business trip. I had to work really, really hard before I left. I had to work really, really hard when I got back. There was really no downtime. Yeah, I took time for myself I was a runner back then and do things for health and do things for friends and go out and be social, but it did it just became too encapsulating for me. And I had done it for like 30, a little more than 30 years. And I just loved the coaching. And I just decided, we just decided to sell the firm. So we sold the firm to our associates, and we had a business building and all that got sold too, and kind of wiped the slate clean, and then just started to build my coaching business. And it was a big transition because they're both helping fields, but they're both very, very different fields.
Yeah.
Even though I was using all those skills as an attorney, the primary thing I was doing was being an attorney. So I was holding that presence when I was marketing or settling cases or to the best of my ability, not all the time. I'm just a work in progress. Um, but it's a different thing just to jump in and to start a new business. And
Yeah.
when I did, I was in my late 50s. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, you know. In the law field I was in, there was like organizations that connected the kind of work I did with the people that would give us the business. So we did a lot of traveling, and it was
Yeah.
just like sort of leaving all of that stuff behind and stepping into something new. And so it took time. You know, it takes time to build up a business. It takes time to make connections. It just has been an interesting journey, and I don't know. I love it. And I guess what I would do is encourage people that really feel like I'm either finished with this or I'm burned out with this, and I need to do something new and different, that the time is now. And I did have a foundation for it when I was, after I practiced after I practiced law for 12 years. I started off as a family law attorney because and I did some, I also helped businesses collect their debts because that's what the attorney I worked for did. And I just got burnt out. I didn't have what the GCA taught me. I didn't have the ability to, I mean, you just get projected by a lot of other attorneys. Your clients are in the
Yeah.
workspace that they are. The system just doesn't work in a lot of ways, especially when parents don't agree on how to, parent the children, who's going to get the kids when, and they start putting the kids between us, or there's drugs or alcohol involved. And I was really I was just flattened by it. And I just knew that I couldn't continue because I didn't have the skills and abilities to let all that stuff go and protect myself from that kind of bombardment. And so I actually decided I'm not doing that anymore. And I was just had a little bit of a practice with helping businesses. And I said no. And in that first kind of 3 weeks when I said no, I got more people calling me to be their attorney than I had in the past year.
Mm.
It was crazy. And I kept on referring them out and referring them out and referring them out. And I decided to go up to a business meeting in Chicago, which is in the Midwest, which everyone came together to practice that kind of work that I was going into, and where they got business. And there was about 2,500 people there. And that's how it all started. I met some people that mentored me, that were really kind to me, and were helpful. And that's how it all sort of began. And so I had that foundation where I was willing to let that stuff go because I just knew that if I didn't do that, I was going to become there was attorneys in my area, and they were very good domestic relations or family law attorneys, but they had this huge hard shell around them where they had blocked out so many other feelings. And I just didn't want to become like them. And I could see that that was what was going to happen. So I had that foundation from earlier in my career that I could then apply to
Yeah.
becoming a coach and a mentor, to starting something new and not being terrified by it.
Yeah. Sounds like a big change there as well, Arlene. Sounds like a big change. What did the burnout look like for you?
Um, I don't know if people could really see it on the outside, but I could feel it on the inside. It's just like I wasn't looking forward to going to the office anymore. I felt like when I went there, no matter what I did, there was a bazillion things to do. And when I finished that, there was even more. And before, it just hadn't bothered me. But I also felt like I just wanted to have a business where I could take my computer and do it anywhere. And
Mm.
so I didn't never got to the place I was like flat on the floor and I couldn't get up, but I was getting there. And I was frustrated, and there was anger stuff going on inside. I don't think a lot of it was visible to the outside world, but I just sort of like had this moment where I just knew I've had enough. I've had
Mm.
enough. I need to change careers. And it wasn't the most graceful way to do it.
Mhm.
But that's what happened.
Hmm. Well, we are glad you did, my friend. Very glad you did. Any regrets in there, Arlene?
Not really. I not really. There were no regrets. I did love, because we did go to so many business meetings, like in the US, and sometimes there'd be one in Canada or one in like England. And so the cool thing about our business was when we went to all these meetings, they became like a family.
Mm.
All these attorneys and collection agencies and people that connected with us, so that I could help businesses get paid for their services and products. And I really love them.
Mm.
It was just like they were like my second family because the same people came to all the different meetings. And so that was kind of hard. But,
Mm.
you just have to let things go.
Yeah, had to put yourself first. Yeah, it was interesting when you were saying that you made the decision clearly that you're going to change, and then that next week or 2 weeks you had more people contacting you than you had in the last year. And it's so interesting because again on the show I've heard about this a lot. It seems that when we make a decision to make a change, right, I'm going to move into something new, then the universe is like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you
Sure.
sure? Are you sure? And when
Yes.
you were saying that, I was just like hearing the universe going, are you sure, Arlene? Here, 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 here. More clients, more clients, more clients. And some people will see that as a sign as, oh, I'm meant to just keep doing it, even though they're broken inside. And, they're the spirit that they are, there's that, really calling that I can't go on anymore. I need to do something new. Oh, but look, all these opportunities, I must need to stay in there. And I speak of this openly because, it's been on the show a lot. It's been in my experience. Yeah, some people, they just don't understand that that's actually the universe going, are you sure? Are you sure? And that's the opportunity for us to stand in our creative abilities and, be self-determining and say, yeah, I am sure. I want the new. I'm done with this.
Yeah, and for some reason I was aware of that. I was really aware of that this was happening, and I just basically I was in a small place where a bunch of attorneys shared office space. I think there were seven of us, and we had a lady there up front. I used my own paralegal that was not in the office, but anyway, she answered the phone for us, and I just gave her a list of three attorneys to refer people to. I did not
Mm.
talk to them, but I just knew
Mm.
that this was what was happening with the universe. For some reason, I had that heart knowing back then, which is a long time ago. And I just knew.
Hey, when you know, right?
When you know,
Sometimes
you
it's
know.
like when you know. If something's done, it's done. Yeah. Something I like to ask people on the show, Arlene, is if you could tell your 21-year-old self something, what would it be?
Well, that's an interesting question because at 21 years old, I had, graduated from the university, Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, which is in the south of the USA. And it was a very competitive school, and I spent a lot of time studying to get the grades that I needed to get into law school.
So
Of
this
course, you have
is
to take it.
before law school, just so I understand. So
Right.
it's the
Yes. Yeah.
exams you need to do to
Yeah.
get to law.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 4 years of university with a degree. I attained that.
Yep.
And it was a very competitive school, so I had to study a lot, and so it was pretty intense. And I wasn't that good at handling stress back then. And I just had this feeling in my heart that I wanted to spend a year traveling through Europe, staying at hostels and like being a waitress. And then I'd already gotten into the University of Kentucky College of Law, and then just asked them to hold that space for me. And I passed that up because I didn't have the courage to do it. I really didn't have the guts. I didn't know how to tell my parents, because my father, um, I was one time kind of looking at schools like in California when I was going away to university, which is a long way from Kentucky. And he was really upset with me, says,
Mm.
"Don't you love me? Why do you want to go all the way across the country to go to
Mm.
school?" And he was like really hurt. And I
Huh.
ended up going to a school that was within, 4 to 6 hours of driving distance to come back home.
Hmm.
And I just didn't have the courage to say that this is what I wanted to do. And there weren't cell phones back then. The only
Yeah.
way would be to send a telegram or to write. And so I didn't do it. And I felt like it was a big mistake because the first year of law school, I was so stressed out. I just felt like I had made the wrong decision. And there was
Mm.
also I had had a boyfriend for a very, very long time that I knew I was probably going to marry if I went to where he was at school. He was also at the school, becoming a doctor.
Yep.
And I was too afraid to let that go as well. So
Yep.
in hindsight, I would have said, find a way, take your savings, go to Europe, get a Euro pass, find a waitress job, and spend a year in Europe and travel and see it before you come back and you make this decision to go through law school. So that's what I would have told her.
Mm. How do you feel that your path could have been different there, Arlene, if you had done that?
Yeah, that's a really big thing because, I have a son from this marriage,
Yeah.
and
So
he's a
you did
beautiful
marry
human
that.
being.
You did
I did
marry
end up
that.
marrying him. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
been married twice.
Yeah.
And so I have a beautiful son from him, and he lives down the road from me about 20 minutes, just a really amazing individual. So who knows if I would have had him or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything could have been different. My ex could have found someone else to date, and married her. So who knows? It could have been a very different life. It could have been.
Turning points.
Yeah, turning points.
Turning points along the way. Well, thanks for sharing, Arlene. Thanks for sharing that there. It's interesting the choices we make and when we're looking back and how much hindsight can give us.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I also
yeah.
loved hearing you say you've got no regrets as well. So that's awesome.
No, I really can't. And because my parents also gifted me when I graduated from college, I could either get a ring or they would send me on the 6-month tour through Europe with a bus full of kids that were age 17 through 22. So I picked
Yeah.
the latter, and I ended
Huh.
up going through Europe for 6 weeks on a bus. We stopped so many countries in Europe. I had the time of my life. I made a couple of
Nice.
awesome friends, and they were from all over the United States. So
Yeah.
I didn't get the same experience, but I
Yeah.
did get a very amazing experience when I was 19, doing something similar.
Ah, awesome. Nice. I'm so curious to know what your dad did because you spoke of him at the start being an entrepreneur. I feel like he's had a
Hmm.
big influence on you and you guys, I don't know, when you're sharing it just feels like there's a lot of love there and with your mum as well. But what did your dad do? What was he about?
Well, my dad was an interesting man. So he was third generation American, and his father and his brothers came over. Well, they were born here too, but it was like, so they were second generation, and they went into the movie theater business. In the area that my father grew up, and also in some lower parts of the adjoining states, which weren't that far away. And my father started off out of college working for them, and then he decided to open his own business. So he's an entrepreneur. I got entrepreneur stuff in my blood, which I passed to my son. And his business was Standard Vendors, and he sold cotton candy, popcorn,
Hmm.
all the candy stuff to movie theaters and schools. And
Whoa,
yeah, and so I
that's
love to go
cool.
there. When he
Yeah.
popped, there's a lady that came in once a week to pop popcorn, and the whole place smelled like popcorn. And I love to go there because I would always talk him in because I was his oldest and only daughter, to bring home a big bag of popcorn. And so I worked for him a little bit in high school, and he was a lovely boss. He had strong, clear boundaries about what you needed to do if you're going to work for me, but he was also very kind to people. He was a small business. And we also got to see free movies anywhere we went in Louisville, Kentucky, where I grew up, which was so much fun because my
That's
father
cool.
loved movies. If you asked him to go to a movie, he would go to one every day. We didn't do
Wow.
that. My mother wouldn't get a fit, but yeah, he was a really good role model for me about how to be your own boss, how to
Yeah.
manage people with clear, strong, and appropriate boundaries, and how to be, kind and supportive at the same time.
Yeah, it sounds like he really did have an influence on you there with some really a positive influence, and that just sounds
Yeah,
really fun what he was doing there. So he
he
was
was.
so how was he supplying? I don't understand. Was he supplying the whole state or nation or
No,
just your
no, 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 no.
towns or what was it?
It was in the city that we lived in
Yep, yep,
like lower Indiana and lower part of Ohio, the movie
yep,
theaters and schools around there.
yep.
And yeah, so I actually worked for him a little bit. And that was the days where you picked up the phone, they'd call you with your order, and you'd have a checklist to check off what they wanted to do. And then I get to go sometimes when he was making the calls to the movie theaters, just to shake their hand and see what they wanted and saw
Yep.
how he did that. because
Yeah.
that's what you did back then. It
Yeah.
was a different world.
Yeah.
And
And a handshake meant
yeah, so
something.
handshake meant something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was his business was there before all those really, really big conglomerates came in. And the only sad thing was they bought him out when he was 59. He wasn't really ready to do that, but it was only thing he could do was like to really work and expand his business to be really, really big to compete with him, and he didn't see how that could
Sure.
happen because they were really huge. So that was kind of sad.
Yeah.
But my mom and him started traveling and doing stuff together that they enjoyed. So I guess it all worked out, but that was a little bit heartbreaking for me to watch him to go through that.
Sure. At the end there, just where big business started to come in.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share about your journey, about coaching generally? Anything you'd like to share with people who are considering moving into this field as a career?
Um, it's a wonderful, wonderful career. I mean, no matter like if it's like me, and I know a lot of graduates just take all the learning into their business now, or you actually go and form your own coaching business. It's just life changing. And I guess for the people that come to us to go through it, and before, just to really bring that kindness and that patience and tolerance with yourself, because it's a whole new way of doing things, a whole new way of learning things. It's amazing and expansive. It can also feel really challenging in moments because it's new stuff. It's like, oh my God, how can I do that? But you'll be guided and supported the whole way. And I just wanted to share that as well.
Yeah, great call. And so rewarding to watch people come in and face their fears and overcome those fears and move into new territory, which they thought wasn't possible.
Yeah.
Cool. So I have two questions that I ask everyone that's on the podcast. You ready? Is there anything else?
Yeah.
Anything else at all?
No, there's
Speak
nothing
now
else. I
or
think
forever
we I
hold.
think we've covered so much.
We
So no,
have.
I'm ready for your two questions.
Okay, awesome. So if you could only remember one lesson from this life and everything else was erased, what would that be?
There's a quote that I love. Any disaster can become a blessing. Any blessing can become a disaster, and there's always a better way. So just remember that, if the soul that I am is going to be in the driver's seat, and if I make a mistake, oh well, we can learn from it. And as we evolve and grow, we can always do things a better way.
Wisdom right there, ladies and gentlemen. I love that. Thank you.
You're
Great.
welcome.
Great, great. That's awesome. And the second question is, Arlene, if you could say something now in real time to every person on the planet and they would deeply hear it, what would that be?
Yeah, especially being in the United States. I don't know how it is over there in Australia, but there's so much divisiveness, especially in the news, different news stations, whether you're on the right or the left or whatever. And it didn't used to be like that. In Washington, D.C., everyone had to stay there. They couldn't live anywhere else. So their kids went to school together. They
Yep.
went to barbecues together. They knew each other. And I think we just really need to get away from us versus them, and there's a good guy and a bad guy, because there's things that we both bring to the table, no matter what political party you're affiliated with, or if you're not affiliated with one, where there's all these separation things about making the other person the enemy, and it's just really not helping, especially out here in the United States, that we're all people. We all put on our clothes the same way, and we all have a common humanity together, and to remember that.
Well said. And that feels like a wrap, my friend. Well said. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you very much for stopping by, Arlene. We love you. We love everything you've done and do for GCA and look forward to continuing working with you. Thank you, everyone, for stopping by. See you next time.